Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I want to talk about the Octopath Traveler Zero demo and my thoughts on it. This demo was shadow dropped on everyone just a couple of days ago as of the recording of this video at the State of Play Japan. They showed off a new trailer showing off some of the villains and then said, hey, the demo's available now. It's not really much of a surprise to see Octopath Zero get a demo because the other two had demos as well, and very notable demos at that. We'll get into that a bit later. But I literally just finished playing it and I can't stop thinking about it. So I just wanted to make a quick video just rattling off some thoughts about the game and also just let people know a lot of people seem to have been surprised that A, there was a new Octopath coming out, which I really hope you know and understand, and B, that there was a demo so that they could actually try it themselves and all their progress would be carried over to the main game, just like the demos for the previous two games. So I'm going to introduce you a little bit to Octopath Zero as well as share my thoughts on the game as we've seen it so far. So for those unfamiliar, this is the third mainline Octopath Traveler game, and it acts as a prequel to Octopath Traveler 1. But it's actually not the first time that a story like this has been told. In fact, this game is actually based on Octopath Traveler's mobile game, Champions of the Continent, which is still ongoing, but it's taking that game's first entire story arc and altering it to make it make sense in this single-player, non-gacha environment of an actual full game. And that's an important thing to stress. It might be based on the story of the mobile game, but it is in no way a mobile game in and of itself. There's no gacha, there's no microtransactions. It's simply a standalone $50 full story game touted to take roughly 100 hours. That's in line with my experience with the other Octopath Traveler games, and at a $50 price tag is pretty good. Now, the game itself is focused on the town of Wishvale and its inhabitants. After a devastating attack on the town, you set off on a mission of, as they put it, both restoration and revenge. For restoration, you spend time building and expanding upon the town of Wishvale after it's attacked, finding any surviving inhabitants and building everyone homes and facilities. You can determine the layout of your home, of all the houses, where everyone lives, decorate their houses, etc. This is actually not something that's from Champions of the Continent. It's something entirely made for Octopath Zero, though it's somewhat derivative of their Nameless Town feature. I did mess around with it a little bit in the demo, as there is actually a full-on main story arc for the restoration path, and it's going to involve building this town up. And you're not just building things in set places so much as you have all of Wishvale, and you can put pretty much most things where you want them to. You can choose which inhabitants live in which houses, and of course freely customize them. So you're not just picking a plot and building just on that spot. You can make like really weird house layouts if that's something that you really want, though it's not like the craziest form of interaction with it. It's just, nice as far as I'm concerned. And there's a lot of really important features that seem like they're going to be unlocked through this, and on top of that, you'll definitely be able to recruit some of the people that you bring back to the town as party members to actually use in combat. As for revenge, that focuses on facing those who turned their sights on Wishvale in the first place and attacked it, and uncovering what deep evil's rooted in the hearts of those people and where it's coming from. I'm trying to be a little vague because I know the entire story of Champions of the Continent's first arc, which is quite extensive. So I know about all this. It's weird because I'm actually not going to be surprised by most of the things that happen in the story. I can tell you I have been surprised a few times already, but that's because they had to make some changes again to make this make sense in this environment versus the way Champions worked, where again, it's made as a gacha. So there's like story elements that make the gacha make sense. Yeah, that whole thing. Again, you don't have to worry about all that. So overall, it's a very straightforward idea and experience. Build back your town, go defeat the bad guys who attacked you, and then experience their stories along the way. But this is Octopath Traveler, so there's always some fun to be had in the core RPG elements of it. And they're actually doubling down on that a little bit more here, and it acts as both a method of giving you some character customization, not a whole lot, but a little bit, as well as giving us a more streamlined Octopath Traveler story, which has actually been one of the key problems that Octopath Traveler has had in terms of drawing long-term interest across the first two titles. The first title drew a lot of attention from its name, its graphics, but lost a lot of people in the way its story was done. The 8 separate stories that, while they do technically tie together very, directly, but you have to kind of figure out how they tie together. And then when the game brings the entire, like the final boss being optional in the first game is something a lot of people just didn't know. But it threw a lot of people off, and it made committing to Octopath 2 a lot harder. Octopath 2 did the whole 8 separate stories thing, but then made efforts to tie several character stories together and then to tie all of them together as actually part of the direct tell you exactly where it is main scenario. So none of that like secret final boss stuff that happened in the first game. Octopath Zero gives you a character you can customize, choose their voice, which is largely only used in combat. You can choose their passives. You can choose certain skills that they start the game with. You can choose key items that they can start the game with, whether that's, food to buff your party or, a key that you don't really know what it's for yet, but it's going to be useful somewhere down the line, or other items in your inventory that could help you out. So it's giving you that kind of loose start of the game, customize your own protagonist feel. And that's not something that Octopath has really done much before. So it's nice to actually see it used in this respect. It also starts the game with one direct prologue that ties you as the main character together with the actual villains of the game, then sets you on the paths that you can take and what order you want to deal with them, and then they all come back together. So if one of your concerns with the old Octopath Traveler games was the super fragmented stories, kind of only loosely being tied together, and then, that whole problem, that's not really gonna happen here. They make sure that you are tied to these villains in some way, so your motivations feel very real right from the get-go. Instead of just, I hopped into this character's shoes, and even if I like this character, it's still kind of weird. Much more streamlined experience while still giving you that freedom to go wherever you want and do everything in the order that you want it to be done in. And in my opinion, Champions of the Continent also had the best gameplay system of all the Octopath games. I think it is genuinely the best of the three, and it's the mobile game. So now that this is coming out, I'm very, very optimistic, especially after playing that first bit of the story in the demo. And it's everything you know about Octopath, but a lot more involved. So the way Octopath Traveler Zero works, as well as Champions of the Continent, instead of only having 4 party members in combat, you can eventually recruit up to 8 party members to have in combat. Now, keep in mind, the roster is bigger than 8. I believe it's 32, they said, as of the first trailer. And that means that you can customize which 8 you actually use and how they're actually oriented. But you have a front row and a back row. And different characters have different strengths and different weaknesses depending on if they're in the front or the back row. Some characters are better in a supportive role in the back row where they don't actually get into combat very often, but they're able to support the character in front of them. And the characters in front are the ones actively in combat, while the characters in the back row, turn by turn, regenerate their health and SP. So you use the back row to kind of charge up. You may have let's say you have your kill team is in the support row and your front team is let's say your support and debuff team. So you go forward, you debuff all the enemies, you buff up your allies or whatever, and then you bring in the kill team after they've been broken and do a ton of damage. And because they're constantly bouncing between front and back row, you're able to constantly regenerate resources in combat and do it tactically. The bosses themselves also go after the front and back row separately. They have some mechanics that will only affect the front row, some that will only affect the back row, some that affect all the rows, so you have to consider how they're actually lined up. There's a whole bunch of mechanics that it opens up, and it's a genuine joy that makes the already great combat system from the Octopath Traveler games even more involved and even more derivative of player skill and choice, which is, in my opinion, just great. I can't say enough positive things about it. So honestly, Octopath Traveler is, I really want this as a franchise to kind of really, really take off. I mean, it was one of the first games that really introduced us to this HD 2D style that a lot of old school gamers or old school RPG lovers really enjoy. First game did pretty well. The second game did okay, but I was genuinely worried we weren't going to see a third game other than Champions of the Continent itself. And here we are with a chance to really give Octopath Traveler the love it deserves as a fan base and give it the respect it deserves as an RPG in recent years. If we want turn-based RPGs and we want to show that we really enjoy these things and that they should be making more of them, really need to, buy into them when they're well made. And Octopath Traveler as a franchise, very well made, and has only gotten better with each iteration of it, and Octopath Traveler Zero is looking like it's not going to be any different in that regard. It looks like they've just taken again the lessons they've learned, people wanting the more focused story, wanting a more involved gameplay system, wanting some more character customization, giving additional features, again, like the town building. everything that I could ask for in a follow-up to Octopath Traveler 2 is effectively addressed here. And so I'm sure when I play the full game, my only complaints are going to be, very particularly minor ones. And I have a hard time thinking of them off the top of my head, what they would even be. Because I'm a huge fan of Octopath Traveler 1, and I'm an even bigger fan of Octopath Traveler 2. So, man, it's got so many good things. You could go through the towns and recruit different people to your party. I found a scholar who's just nuking everything. And then you can also try to steal from the townsfolk. So you've got the save scumming if you want to do that. If you want to try to get crazy powerful items at super rare rates before you actually feel like you should have them. They're just way stronger than anything you should be capable of at that point in the game. Then each character has their own trick. There's going to be so many things that I'm looking forward to. And I really, really want everyone to approach this game, regardless of what they thought about Octopath Travelers 1 or 2. It's worth a try. It has a demo, and this demo does something else that I love. And I don't think it's intentional, but if it is, I love the developers for doing this. Octopath Traveler 2 had a demo that was 3 hours long. But as long as you never left the screen that you were on with the 3-hour mark, it never ended. So what the meta became, if you were someone who really wanted to be OP when the game came out, which I know not everyone wants to do, but it's one of those things that I kind of like to do. You could speed run through it. After you played through it a few times and got familiarized with everything, you speed run through it. And then you collect all the characters, do everything that's possible, and then you find a dungeon to grind. One that gives you like decent chances at like maybe getting high amounts of money or high amounts of EXP, or maybe it's a really high level dungeon, but you're kind of able to squeak by on some kills and actually, grind out in that dungeon. And you can stay there forever until you leave that dungeon. You never have to stop playing the demo. And that's what I'm definitely going to do with Octopath Traveler Zero, because they did it again. I got to the 3-hour mark, realized that I was still able to play, and I was like, I already know the plan. The plan is to do chapter 1 of each of the stories and recruit every character, see what items are high value that I can steal that'll give me an edge, find a dungeon, and go. I also have an idea of what job I want to play, and that of merchant, because it actually has a skill that will help me grab job points faster and grind them out faster. So I love a demo that's way longer than its intended time. I did this with Octopath 2. I did this with Metaphor ReFantazio, and I am doing it with Octopath Traveler Zero, because we got a few weeks before it comes out, because it comes out December 4th. Yeah, no time at all before Octopath Traveler Zero is in our hands. So my overall impressions of the demo, it was great. And I shouldn't be that surprised, because it's Octopath Traveler and I loved the first 2 games, but it's better than I thought it would be, mostly because of the extra story elements that are added in the beginning and the direction that it gives at that time. And the knowledge of knowing how Champions of the Continent goes means I can only be more excited for everyone to get to experience things that I have been saying is the best storytelling in Octopath Traveler for years. And if they're really fixing up any of the small loopholes that they introduced in Champions, and they can really nail down the story and glue it together in just those few remaining ways, this will by far be the best Octopath Traveler story, I think, of all the games. And that's because Champions, I feel the same way about it. But anyway, I'm going to go spend a lot of time on this supposedly 3-hour demo. So let me know what you thought of the Octopath Traveler Zero demo. If you've played it, if you haven't, again, the demo is available on every platform the game is available on. And fortunately, we are in the era of Square releasing most everything on everything. They still have the Elliot, Switch 2 exclusive demo. But other than that, it's on Steam, it's on PlayStation, it's on every platform the game's going to be on. The demo is on. So go and have a good time. So let me know what you think in the comment section of the video below. And with that, I'm done nerding out about Octopath Traveler Zero. Enjoy yourselves. Take care.